allowed the technology to replace the people component just way too much. And again, I'm a huge advocate of technology. You know that. We've talked
Mhm.
offline about that.
Yeah.
And that's where I really got my footing in a lot of ways in HR way back when we were getting into internet recruiting and posting jobs online and so on. That's where I came in. But what I found was we let the technology really replace the people interactions. And employees have seen that and they've become unhappy with it. We've lost a lot of trust from our employees because we're not as open and honest and as accessible as we need to be. We've lost the trust of a lot of our potential employees because, again, we're not open, we're not honest, we're not accessible. A candidate applies for a job, for example, and they never hear anything back. And to
Mhm.
me, that's irresponsible.
Welcome to Staffing Forward, the podcast where we sit down with staffing and recruiting leaders who are actively building, scaling, and adapting in one of the most competitive talent markets we've seen in years. This show is really about real conversation, not theory, around how firms are growing in tight candidate markets, protecting margins, and navigating the operational and technology shifts reshaping the industry. My name is Geraldine Mensah-Dartey, and I'm the CEO and founder of Pricer Solutions and Analytics and the host of this podcast. Today, we're diving into a critical topic: how staffing firm owners are growing their business while keeping margins healthy in today's market. I'm so excited about today because I have a very important person on my show today, Mr. Kyle Patrick Smith. Kyle is the founder and CEO of HR Kyle Services based in Ohio. I will have him introduce himself in a little bit. He helps organizations plan for and navigate workforce transitions. He's a recognized thought leader, author, and speaker on workforce transitions, leadership, and hiring. This is great. And he also contributes to national conversations through his writing, speaking engagement, and media platforms. So he's not new to this kind of activity. And so I can't wait, Kyle. Welcome. Really glad to have you on.
Geraldine, it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this, and I'm excited to have our conversation today and see what we're going to discuss.
Awesome. Awesome. So today, our discussion will be on what successful recruiting companies do differently. Lessons in sustainable growth. A lot of people reach out to us, send us emails asking questions, and I feel we are not the best people to be answering those questions because they are more operational than technology. And so, people like Kyle, you're one of the people that we can collaborate with and have those questions answered. So today, before we jump in, I know you're always on the move working. Where are you calling in today?
So today I'm actually at our headquarters today, which is good to
Okay.
be home for a little bit. So we're located in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, and we're basically on the outskirts of Akron and roughly about 40 minutes south of downtown Cleveland is where Cuyahoga Falls is.
Okay, perfect. I know I introduced you a little bit at the beginning. Kyle, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself in addition to what we see in LinkedIn?
Absolutely. So, first off, I'm married to my wife, Becky. I have a son who's in college at Kent State University. He's 20 years old. He's entering his third year there, but he's a senior. He did some work in high school. So, he's a senior there. In fact, I'm proud to say he is going to be the student government president for this year at Kent State University. So that's some of the personal side. And as you mentioned, I love to travel, and we try to build travel into our work here as well. On top of that, I spent 25 years, Geraldine, over that actually in corporate HR. So I grew up doing HR, learning HR, functioning there, acting as a leader within the HR function as well as the organizations I'm in. And I've brought that approach, that mindset to this work now that we've been doing for the last couple of years with HR Kyle Services.
Perfect. Okay, so now let's dive into a few things. I'm going to ask you a few questions so to ground us, can you walk us through your role today and how your firm is structured in terms of how you win and deliver business?
Yeah. One of the biggest things for us is, our message is very clear. And that is myself and my team, we've done the work that we come to talk to you about. So for this example, we're talking about staffing, hiring, recruiting, talent acquisition. Those are functions that I led throughout my career in HR. And I've got a team here behind me that have worked in those functions. So they've done the work from a corporate standpoint relative to that topic. So first off, we always speak about that. We know what our clients are going through, we know what they're dealing with. The other thing that we do too, Geraldine, and I think you've picked up on this, is we talk in very practical language. There's a lot of fluffy, nice, fancy, really nice looking sounding terms that we can use relative to this, but that's not what this is about. This is about practical, doing what's the right thing, knowing what's successful, and executing on that. So those are the things that we talk about with our clients, and that's what draws our clients in. They want to work with a company like ours who's been there and done that, speaks language that everybody understands, and can get things done without a lot of fluff and a lot of noise. So we draw organizations in, our partners in with that message. And the ways that we do that, certainly we work our existing network. When you've been in human resources as long as I have, and our other talent on our team have been in, you make contacts. So we leverage that because there's a level of trust when you have those longer term relationships. We certainly, and again, you highlighted this in my intro, we make sure that we're where people want information. So we're making sure that we're meeting our potential clients where they are. And those are the people that are looking to learn more about recruiting and talent acquisition and all the things that we're good at. So we appear on a lot of podcasts. We contribute content to various outlets, whether it's social media, whether it's news outlets, and all these different things. We've got a radio station that we run, and we have all our content out there. We do a weekly podcast of our own that's on the HR channel, which is an up and coming outlet for HR professionals to get their information out there. So we really try to be where our potential customers and clients are as they're looking for information to say, hey, here we are. We know what we're doing. Let's talk a little bit about the things that we do. And again, that draws the kind of client in that we want to work with. And those are typically small to medium-sized companies who need to see results.
Awesome. Wow, I could listen to you all day on that topic. You are an industry voice, I can say. So you've been in this space for a long time, and 25 years is a long time. What are the biggest shifts you're seeing right now in how your clients, and I mean the companies you recruit for, are engaging you and buying from you, and how our candidates also? So that's two questions in one. How your clients are buying and how candidates are behaving. What's
Yeah, so
the biggest
so I'll,
shift?
I'll address one first, and I really saw this shift that I'm going to talk about as I was working in HR and as I was thinking about building what I've built here,
Mhm.
and that is companies now more than ever are looking for consulting partners, HR partners, third party organizations that can work with them on a project basis. They're not necessarily looking for a partner to come in and just supplement their HR for a long period of time. They may well just be looking for a partner for a particular initiative, a particular program, or a particular policy. So, from our standpoint, we're happy to meet them there. We are happy to engage in those kind of relationships. And again, you and I are going to talk about this theme more. We regard all of our relationships as long term, meaning the work that we do, even if it's one single project, we do it to the best of our ability with the thought that if we do that, they're going to remember us. And the next time they have a need, they're going to come back to us. So we never think about anything we do as a transactional basis. And
Mhm.
again, that's what I've seen as far as HR being a shift. Because when I started my career, and we're talking late 90s when I got into HR, back then it was about pick a consulting partner and they're just with you for the long haul. Well,
Yeah.
we've gotten away from that now. We really have. Organizations aren't looking for that, and we're happy to meet them there. So that's the first part of that question. The second part of the question, and this has been one that I've been preaching on for a few years because it's one we need to work on as an HR profession. We've allowed the technology to replace the people component just way too much. And again, I'm a huge advocate of technology. You know that. We've talked
Mhm.
offline about that.
Yeah.
And that's where I really got my footing in a lot of ways in HR way back when we were getting into internet recruiting and posting jobs online and so on. That's where I came in. But what I found was we let the technology really replace the people interactions. And employees have seen that and they become unhappy with it. We've lost a lot of trust from our employees because we're not as open and honest and as accessible as we need to be. We've lost the trust of a lot of our potential employees because, again, we're not open, we're not honest, we're not accessible. An employee applies for or a candidate applies for a job, for example, and they never hear anything back.
Mhm.
And to me,
Mhm.
that's irresponsible. And what that does, though, is it creates a level of distrust because, gosh, I took this effort to apply to this job. I was interested in, and nobody even said anything.
Mm.
So, what I've seen on the candidate side and the people side is a real strong need to shift this back to say, hey, we've got all these wonderful technologies. Let's use that so we can get better and improve at interacting with our employees and interacting with our candidates, potential partners, and so on. So that's where we are now. We're at an interesting crossroads. We've got the AI, we've got other technologies that are here. How can we use them to get better at the people side again?
Good. I like that. I'm loving it. So, what would you say has changed most in the last 2 to 3 years?
2 to 3 years, there's this tug of war that's happening right now that started certainly a little bit before COVID, but COVID pushed it along. And this is the idea of remote work, flexible work, and those kind of things. And of course, COVID 2020, 2021, 2022, 23, companies were saying, oh, work from home. It's a way for us to save money, et cetera, et cetera. But now, over the last few years, we've seen this shift to say, oh, we really need you to come back into the office now. Well, let's not do that remote work thing anymore.
Right.
But then you've got employees on the other side saying, whoa, hold on here. This has been a good setup. I'm still doing my job. I'm still productive. I'm still doing what you need me to do. But that work from home thing has saved me a lot of money. It's given me flexibility. I can make my appointments. I'm a better parent now, all of these other things. So last 2 or 3 years, there's this tug of war. Companies come back to the office. Employees know I need the flexibility. So that's been a curious phenomenon to see that, and it continues to play out.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. So, I want to, move to something a little closer to my heart and to yours too, transitioning into operational realities. Okay. When you think about your business today, Kyle, what are the key metrics or levers you're most focused on improving right now? So now let's talk about operations.
Yeah, great question. And we talk about this a lot, and we talk about this throughout the organization because we want to keep it simple. We want everyone focused in the same direction. And to keep it simple, the bottom line is the bottom line, revenue. That's our key measurement. Because if we can have everyone focused on generating revenue in whatever the function they are that they do here, we're going to be a successful organization. So we share those numbers. We make sure everyone is aware of where they're tracking individually. We also make sure that everyone understands their role relative to revenue generation.
Mhm.
So, not to overcomplicate it, we keep it simple. How are we generating revenue? How are we growing revenue? How is it changing month to month? That is
Mhm.
our biggest focus far and away.
Mhm. Perfect. So, what's been the most frustrating bottleneck recently? I know a few of my clients always talk about the same thing, but I want to just hear from you what's been your Kyle HR most frustrating bottleneck recently?
This economy, I'm going to say the economy has been a bit of a frustration. We've been sitting here and me specifically, I've been sitting here now for probably about 8, 9, 10 months thinking, okay, we're gonna cross the threshold here. We're gonna break through. We're gonna see some legitimate stabilization in our economy, but more importantly, we're gonna see some growth. And when I say see growth, I mean actually feel it, because there are certain economic indicators you look at and you say, well, gosh, this economy must be doing well. But I don't think you and I would sit here and say, just from the eyeball test, the economy is doing well. And that's honestly, that's been my biggest frustration, knowing that our economy can break through, that it should be, but it's just not quite happening.
Staying on that bottleneck topic, where do you feel things should be smoother or more predictable?
Well, I think smoother is what I would be leaning towards. I've always thought that a little bit of unpredictability is a good thing. Keeps us on our toes. It's the biggest opportunity for substantial growth. If things are a little bit unpredictable, there's always that chance that you can grow more. If they're steady, yeah, it's growing, but there's not a chance for a true breakthrough or a substantial leap, maybe even a quantum leap in growth. So I'm a big person that I don't mind a little bit of unpredictability, because I think it presents opportunities for those of us who are prepared for those.
Mhm.
Steady, that's for the person. And I don't think any entrepreneur is looking for something that's steady. That's not what we choose to go out on our own. If we wanted steady, we would stay working for someone else. We're looking for something where there's a little bit of unpredictability that creates an opportunity that we can seize on.
Okay, so is that more of a sourcing issue, conversion issue, or operational bandwidth? When you,
I still think it to me, again, keeping it simple, I still think it traces back to operational, because ultimately, let's just narrow this down to talk about talent acquisition.
Mhm,
Ultimately, companies are still needing to hire, right?
mhm,
Ultimately, there are still companies that are growing. Ultimately, there are still innovations that are happening and technologies that are happening.
mhm,
So, what it does in these times of uncertainty economically, it challenges us organizationally to figure out how can we still reach that part of the market that we want to reach, because it's still out there. There may not be this overwhelming growth, but there's still growth happening. So it's up to us operationally to say, what do we need to do? What do we need to change? How do we need to adjust our approach and so on to reach those opportunities? Because they're a little bit more hidden. They're a little bit
mhm.
harder to find. They're a little bit more work to achieve, to accomplish, but they're still there.
Okay, perfect. I mean, I like where we're going. If we fast forward, Kyle, to maybe 6 to 12 months, or should I say 12 to 24 months, what would a real strong version of your business look like?
I would say I see us still doubling in growth. We've managed to double in growth since last year at this time, and I think we're going to continue to double in growth for the next 12 to 24 months. So every year we should at least double in growth. So if you're looking 24 months out, we should be, 200% beyond where we are today. And again, I'm
Okay.
talking revenue.
Do you have any secret sauce to share? I
I do.
mean,
What it comes down to me is those things that I shared earlier.
yeah.
It's letting people know that we know what we're doing because we've done it before. It's talking in plain, practical language that anybody can understand and they can relate to.
Mhm,
And those two things alone, Geraldine, tend to set us apart from a lot of other companies.
mhm.
They don't tend, I post frequently, I look at my competitors and none of them have worked in HR before. Or if they have, it's been for a few years. So right off the bat, we've got that advantage. Number two, because they haven't worked in HR, they don't know the true language. So
Hmm.
they grasp these clever, terms that they've heard that everybody hears about. And leaders more and more, especially in these tight economies, they don't have time for the noise. I'm a leader myself. I don't have time for noise. I'm going to give you my attention if you talk to me in plain language, you're honest with me, you let me know how we can work together and we get down to business. I don't need all these fancy terms and all this other stuff. Well, there's a lot of leaders right now that feel that very same way. So that's part of it. And the other thing is, too, and I mentioned this earlier, we look at every connection as a long term relationship. And the other thing that we talk about, and this is whether it's potential candidates, clients, whoever it is. It's never no, it's just not right now.
Mhm.
And what that means is that demonstrates our commitment to say, I've talked to Geraldine today. She may not be interested, but we still value her. We would like to work with her someday. So we try to make sure that we do things that foster that relationship. And we keep in contact and we make sure that we're visible to her. We don't pester her because she doesn't need that. She's too busy for that. But we make sure that she knows that we're here and we care and we can help her when she's ready. And
Okay.
again, that goes along with our clients, our job candidates, potential job candidates, community partners. We work to build relationships without an expectation that it's going to pay off today. And an
Mhm.
interesting question I got from a young man yesterday. A big part of what I do is trying to interact with younger professionals because I enjoy that. I feed off that. And I had one yesterday reach out to me, and he wanted a couple of quotes that guide me. And one of them I gave him was, give more than you take. And we as an organization try to operate that way. And
Mhm.
I find long term that leads to a happier life, a happier company, a more successful company, a more successful life. Because there are a lot of organizations, especially now, and I hate to see this, that want to take more than they give. And I just rather not be that way. This is not how I was wired.
Mhm. Good. So I love the fact that in about 12 to 24 months, you're saying double your revenue and all that. Is there anything in particular that you, Kyle, as the business leader driving the operations, would need to change to get there? Is there anything that you
Yeah,
see needs to change to get there?
absolutely. Over time, and I'm working on this. This is a challenge, and this is a challenge for any entrepreneur. I've got to get more out of the day to day and really be functioning strategically. And I work on that every day. There's a lot of things and my wife is my partner. She joined me about a year ago. And we take an inventory every so often to say, what are the things, let's make a list of the things that we're doing and how we're spending our time. And we're identifying on this list. These are the things we've got to get rid of. These are the things we shouldn't be doing. These are tasks that an administrative person could do, or
Mhm.
someone else could do and be as good or better than me, so I can spend my time being CEO of this company, being our senior advisor and consultant to our clients, because that's why we're in business. We're not in business for me to respond to emails and do all these other things. So again, awesome question, because it's front on my mind every day because we take an inventory of it. More and more, I've got to shed those things where I'm not adding the value that I can add and let other people do it that can add more value.
Awesome. That's really interesting, especially what you said about. So basically, it's about operational bandwidths that could change.
Yes.
Things you're doing operationally could change, and a lot of our guests and our clients have said a lot about that, and we're hearing that quite a bit across firms right now, especially those trying to scale without increasing recruiter headcount linearly. And some people think I need maybe five more people to help, make phone calls. I need to answer emails. But sometimes you don't really need to do that. And that's what I hear you say. And most of them have said that.
Yeah.
Oh,
We look
this.
for tools, Geraldine. We look for tools in the marketplace. My wife and I talk about it all the time. Is there an AI tool? Is there an organization? Is there some other way to accomplish this more effectively and more efficiently? That's where we are. And sometimes it is people, sometimes it's a tool, sometimes it's some mixture thereof. But yeah, I absolutely, that's front and foremost on our minds, organizationally and operationally.
That is really good. So we could be talking about this all day, and then I love what we just went through, keeping it simple, conversational, and letting people who have no idea how to succeed and are just going around in circles. You dropped a lot of nuggets, and this is really great. Great talking to you. And I want to say thank you. Thank you. We could be here all day trying to go around, but I think I would invite you back on a different day so that you can deep dive into some of the topics in sourcing, conversion, and then also what you have done specifically to overcome some of the operational bottlenecks. So thank you so much for your time. And to our listeners, this is great. If you want to scale, if you are interested in building your business and not thinking about increasing headcount, but getting over using different tools that Kyle talked about. Kyle, before we go, I want you to tell me maybe a little story about what actually got you to say, stop, Kyle, do this. And what did you do? What kind of technology did you move into? A lot of our clients are not using any sophisticated technology and they are looking to move into that landscape. So tell us if there is any particular technology you have used and then what brought you to use that.
Yeah, great question. So for a few years now, like a lot of professionals, like a lot of companies, we're building AI into everything that we do. And a lot of that comes down to that analysis that I mentioned earlier, Geraldine, to
Mhm.
look and
Yeah.
say, gosh, I'm spending a lot of time on this. Is there a
Mhm.
is there a more effective and efficient way to do this? And that's what drives that decision making. And as I said, it's my wife and I leading this business and saying, what are the things that we're doing and how can we do it better? And we literally take an inventory. I've got the papers right here. And we
Mhm.
take an inventory and we challenge ourselves to say, can somebody else do it? Can something else do it? And it's
Yeah.
every single thing that we do. And we try to go through that exercise at least quarterly, that we'll go through that and just take a look at what we do. And I would encourage all business owners to do that. And you say, oh my gosh, I don't have time. Make the time because the payoff is worth it. We've seen the return on investment in
Mhm.
what we've saved from a time standpoint by looking at tasks and seeing how we can replace them more effectively and efficiently. So it is absolutely worth your time to look at it.
Okay. I really appreciate you sharing it and how you are approaching growth and pipeline build in this market. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. And to our viewers, if you want to reach Kyle, Kyle, could you share your information again?
Absolutely. So it's Kyle at hrkyle.com. And I do a funny thing, Geraldine. If people email me, I respond. I respond to all my emails. That's the first thing. And then secondly, if they just want to call our office and they can reach myself or my wife Becky, 330-541-5533.
Awesome. Thank you so much.